Hi, everyone. This is Melissa Mari, and this is Living Gold, the podcast of the other side of the Shadow Tech Alchemy brand, so to speak, of showing the movie-like nature of life and featuring life artists who are living their sacred process through their life. And we're all doing this, but I'm featuring people that I know have it out there in the world and have something very important that they're sharing and an important mission. So today I'm very excited to have Derek Bartolacelli on, and he is a life artist and conscious DJ, video producer, podcast host. We met him with Leslie Powers through his podcast, Dissolving the Divide, and he's also a teacher of natural law. And is there anything else, Derek, that you want to add to that?
Melissa, bonjour.
Bonjour.
Yeah, well, there's just a lot to life, and a lot of people, I'm sure, like yourself, we don't like to be limited by labels or whatever. But yeah, to describe certain things and my path work and what I've dabbled in, yeah, that's definitely accurate. What you mentioned, I appreciate that. And I have a new service type of website initiative I'm trying to start called Holistic Logistics. And that's really just, being a network, a hub for, all types of wellness, holistic healing, and just even in the educational departments and everything. And yeah, it's isn't life something, huh?
Oh, it's incredible. So
you can do so much with it.
Something happened, which is very movie-like, and it is that this house and being in Texas where we are is filled with bugs. Last night I found a scorpion in our bathroom. That was fun. A pretty good-sized scorpion. But this morning, as we started here, there's this beautiful bug, and I don't know what kind of bug, but it's long and green, kind of psychedelic looking. And so that was very interesting way to start a podcast. But here we go. And one thing that I found out about you, Derek, is that we grew up in the same area in Marin County.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah. So there's something very sacred about the energy of that whole place. Mount Tamalpais, through the Miwok Indians, was a very sacred mountain. The Sleeping Lady. I'm sure you've been up there many, many times, and you can feel the vibe up there, right? And how heart-based it is. And there's something about that, growing up around that has an effect on our whole life. I feel that. But anyway, so what was your first memory that had like importance to you?
This is funny because I'm a fire sign, and I had really tough issues with temperance and stuff. And growing up and looking back and struggling with anger management issues or whatever. I remember like not even 5 years old, little tyke on this little bike, and just I feel like I'm an old soul, and just like repeating, lessons I've already gone through and stuff. So like, it's just like riding a bike in a sense. But when I was that age, I was like trying to pedal. I couldn't get it to the metal, if you will. And then, like, I remember getting so frustrated. I'd just be like slamming the bike down. I was next to the pool. I remember just like tossing in the pool and just being like in a rage over like the slightest thing, or just, if if you don't succeed, try again. And but have, you know, I wouldn't say humbleness to it, but just, okay, we have to learn something and not get so upset as if we know it from the get-go, when we're still trying to learn a lot of things, and have our body mechanic and politic get more aligned, or whatever, and refined as we grow,
So when you had that experience when you were that age, um, did did you feel frustrated? You were frustrated? Were your When you grew up, were your parents around a lot, or were you by yourself a lot?
Oh, let's see. I had at least 15 au pairs.
Oh,
And
wow.
for those that don't know, yeah, au pair is kind of
Yeah.
like a nanny, but
Mm-hmm.
the majority of them were from either Europe or South America or Mexico. Because
Ah.
I have a very international background. My mother was born in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
So she had like contacts. I had like, people from Switzerland,
Mm.
Germany, one
Wow.
from France, I think, Sweden. Yeah, so it was really cool.
What did
But
sh-
yeah,
what did
kind
your
of.
mom do? What did your mom do?
She was a real estate agent, and she pretty much
Ah.
started within a year after I was born. I think she
Mm-hmm.
was already studying and stuff, and she really hit the block, like literally going from house to house and like old school style. And
Mm.
she built up enormous success from the ground up,
Mm.
grassroots community style. And yeah, what she did was wonderful, doing it for as long as I've been alive, pretty much, which is 40 years.
Wow. Yeah.
So
So being in Marin and all that, I mean, I know how expensive it is to live there and all that. And so that must have been incredibly lucrative and take a lot of energy for her. So that would leave you with the au pair. And so you would have to get used to, like, if you had 15 au pairs, that would be a lot of energy for a child to have to learn how to interact with that, different people all the time, right?
yeah, and I remember there was some resistance from my part sometimes, and like,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes like crying, or being like in denial of like, oh, another one, like, who's this guy? Or
Oh,
like,
yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that was frustrating. Well, that would show why you would feel, frustrated like that. Um, because when we're that young, we're so attached to our parents, or what whoever is our caretaker. And so if you're growing up with all these different people all around, I could see how that would be kind of push you in a certain kind of a direction too.
mm,
So you grew up. Were you in what I know this is more personal, and the
so
people who are listening don't really care, but I do recommend you go visit that area. It's in the San Francisco Bay Area. It's very beautiful. But what town did you grow up in?
Marinwood.
Oh,
That's
Marinwood. Yeah.
the first house my parents bought. It was in 83,
Mm-hmm.
84.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was only for like 130 something thousand.
Oh, I know.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Yeah, because that's around the time
Like
my
a million.
parents sold their house. So yeah, so
Damn.
it was
Gosh.
through that time where it just went crazy. But okay, so and then what high school did you go to?
I went to Terralinda High,
Oh,
and
okay.
even when I was growing up, my father would, like, we weren't like super rich.
Right.
They made some investments. They, borrowed money from their parents to
Mm,
buy a house. That was a
mm-hmm.
huge investment on their part.
Right.
My father at the time, he was still taking the bus
Mm.
uh, to San Francisco to work at Barclays Bank,
Oh,
kind of
wow.
thing.
Uh-huh.
And then he ended up quitting that a couple years later to help my mother, and they kind of teamed up on the real estate stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That had some ups and downs and
Yeah.
stuff, and we had to like ask favors from like neighbors sometimes and
Right.
this and that. So I saw the both polarities of, rich and poor and this and
Mm-hmm.
that, and like kind of just being in this kind of bubble of Marin County and this and
Right.
that. And yeah, you're into high school, you encounter all types of people.
Yeah, my niece
Yeah.
and nephew went to Terra Linda High, and they're half Tongan, and so yeah, there's a lot of different people in that area. People don't really realize that there's so many different people, different kinds of people. So it's yeah. But so you grew up, your parents were busy. I mean, this is something that I see all over, you know, is that our parents were incredibly busy or they were involved in doing other things. And in Marin, during the 80s, actually, it was all about, creating wealth, creating, and there was also on the other side, being around all this kind of like new age stuff. I don't know if you kind of had that experience too, where it's like we were growing up when all the alternative psychotherapy was out. Everyone had their therapists. Everybody was going through divorces. Everybody was, experimenting, with all this stuff. It was like when you first had these groups, like EST and all this. So all that stuff had an effect on how I grew up too, because it was all, even if our parents didn't actually do it, it was just like all around, right? Yeah. And even the way that school was run was kind of like they would do these experiments and stuff on you. And so it was very interesting. Did you have experience like that, or was it more
As far
normal?
as like the hippie side of thing, if you will, that's kind of how our generation considered it,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. Right.
As far as field trips, and I wouldn't say experiments, but as far as like extracurricular activities that you wouldn't
Uh-huh.
really have in the normal curriculum, and just
Mm-hmm.
like exploring some of the wonderful nature. Yeah,
Yeah,
Point
yeah.
Reyes is so beautiful, and it's really a testament to folks like John Muir.
Yeah.
Then there's Muir Woods, of course, in dedication to him,
Mm-hmm.
and he was a big pioneer
Right,
in and of
right.
itself, but also a pioneer of like preserving nature and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, quite
Yeah.
a interesting man. But
So, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was just gonna say, field trips wise, we did like Skywalker Ranch
Oh, yeah.
before they sold to Disney. Lucasfilms.
Mm-hmm.
There's Lucas Valley, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's Skywalker Ranch further on, and all that
Right.
stuff. And also checking out some of the like old Miwok
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we
film
did that too.
stuff, and so at a young age, that had a huge impression on me actually. And I did like Indian guides and Boy
Mm-hmm.
Scouts as well. And so being out in nature, I played all the sports, kind of like your typical American growing up in the fucking suburbs, that with the parents that have, somewhat of the means to do that to an extent, right? So yeah, it was cool. So
Yes.
your question?
Oh, I was going to say, so when did the music bugs start to get into you?
I remember when, geez, I was in middle school, and the first, for like Christmas or my birthday, the first tape cassettes I ever got in my life was Green Day, Dookie.
Mm-hmm.
And they're from the Bay Area, right?
Right. Yeah. Berkeley.
It's
Yeah.
funny shit, yeah. So I got hugely keyed into, I was loving like Live 105,
Mm-hmm.
that radio station with the
Mm-hmm.
alternative rock and all that shit for years and years and years. Up until, I was a sophomore in high school where, I just like the friendship expanded on, and I had, friends that were, I was, digging hip hop even before that for sure. Like even, what was playing on the radio, KMEL.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, high school opened up the doors to like a gang of underground hip hop that I had no idea existed, and it was prolific in the Bay Area exclusively, like
Mm.
ridiculously. I'm sure you're familiar with that. And even just like any genre of music, it seemed, right? It seemed like the golden age in the
Oh, yeah,
90s.
totally. Yeah, I mean, there's so many
I mean,
bands that came out, so many bands of all genres that came out of the Bay Area then. And then there was a lot of cross culture going on too. I'm trying to think of some of those bands offhand, but where they would work with like a rock or a metal band and then add it to their production, like some hip hop. And there was some, oh gosh, I can't think of that name of that band that I just loved. That was like a hip hop group, but they were a band and they had gigs and they were just, it was amazing. And now I can't even think of what their name is. And God, I'm sorry.
no worries. Are they really popular? Like
They
Run DMC, old school, or from the Bay
they
Area
were
somewhere?
old school. They were old school, like 90s. Yeah, when all that stuff was going on.
I mean, Beastie Boys, they're even older than that,
No,
but
but
yeah.
that's New York. No, that was
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, yeah.
older. No, this is later than that. But needless to say, so you were definitely had all these different cross-cultural music styles, and then I would even say lyrically, things were in some ways, because it hadn't gotten incredibly commercial yet, the hip hop was very deep, like in what you're saying, the underground, hip hop was very deep.
Yeah, and just real quick, I was going out to so many different shows. I had friends that were musicians, friends that were hungry to go, rap battle or just hit up open mics and this and that, and so we were up in that scene from Berkeley to Oakland to
Hmm.
San Francisco, and I got a affinity for like that slam poetry too at an
Mm.
early age as well.
Oh,
So
did
really
you
digging that.
did you perform? Did you do like open mics or anything?
No, I was a timid young lad at the time.
Okay. Um,
Yeah,
s-
worst I would, yeah, just beatboxing in the background for folks to freestyle and maybe throw in some rhymes too. That would be my thing, extent. But
So when did you get into like this whole connection between the spiritual and the musical and the art and all this?
I mean, it had to have started around that time. Yet, I just there's not that really inner eyesight to an inner ear as to really hear what they're saying and portraying and stuff. Although it totally tickled my fancy and an inclination towards that stuff. But no, you're just, as a man, you're young, dumb, full of cum, and there's so many distractions thrown at you, and you got out sports and this and that. And just life goes by and all this stuff, and you want to get into all this stuff, and you don't really have that encouragement, motivation, or just like from other people to say like, "Hey, man, take out time for yourself and like reflect on certain things in a spiritual way." And like, hey, but like check like today, you can reference countless YouTube videos. We couldn't really do it back then.
Right.
So
Yeah.
that was one thing, and just I guess to get back to your question, to be more specific, it was really when I was in love and had that heart chakra
Mm.
open that really facilitated that uh, deeper desire to dig deeper into all these things that I had inklings about and had inner gnosis to an extent, but I needed to confirm it in through other means as well, and all these things, and get the fucking details. And I was like, yo, I'm with this woman. I'm married. I'm in France, living in Paris at the time. It's 2012, And I finally kicked my ass and be like, yo, you're gonna do some damn homework and like the unlearning with the relearning of all these different things that were taught, untaught, or mistaught in the public school, right? So
Yeah, but how did you get? So did you go to college? How did you get from Marin County to France?
I studied abroad in a few
Mm.
ways, but double meaning with that, and I'm not a big fan of that pun. But yeah, it was a really cool synchronicity. I was like weeping in tears, crying out to the universe. Before I left, I was in San Diego State University at the
Hmm.
time. After doing 4 years of community college in Santa Rosa, JC,
Oh yeah, there you go.
it's quite a place to be. It's actually a beautiful place,
Hmm.
honestly, and it's quality education for the price, and just like for labeling it a community college, right?
Hmm.
But San Diego State, just like I don't know, it's like I missed the mark on doing the whole from high school to college and stuff, and I felt like the gap of maturity was insanely depressive for me when I was
Mm.
over there. And just maybe it's the Southern California vibe also at
Hmm.
the time with the superficial Hollywood drizzle that
Mm-hmm.
goes down south and all about. So yeah, San Diego, it just I felt kind of alienated there and stuff, and so I was like, I got to go out, and I wanted to go study in Italy. It didn't work
Mm.
out because that's motherland, Bartolacelli, my name. But yeah, France was the second option. That was the most viable. So I did that. And lo and behold, I met a beautiful woman from Tahiti,
Mm.
where this is from. And we were married for 9 years, actually,
Wow.
starting in 2010. And so, yeah, bring you up to speed on that real quick in a nutshell. So, and for me, so yeah, going back, keeping this tied in with the music, because the
Mm-hmm.
music was my best friend
Mm.
throughout travels and stuff. And even,
Mm-hmm.
I had my car stolen in San Diego also, like within the
Mm.
first 2 weeks of moving down there.
Mm.
And so I was taking public transportation and just like knocking hella music in my headphones that still
Mm.
resonate with me today, that take me back to that time, because these things can be like time capsules, especially if you had certain sounds in heavy rotation in a specific period of your life, especially if you're going through transitions,
Mm-hmm.
difficult moments, whatever, even the good times. There's all these things. We can alchemize the good times. It's not
Mm.
all about the bad stuff, right?
Right.
And kind of keep that wheel churning towards the good stuff, trying to master that law of rhythm in
Mm-hmm.
regards to the Hermetica. But yeah, so when I moved to France, it was huge. I, felt really isolated. I didn't really know anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yet I had oodles of music that I've stocked up. I was collecting music over the years, like a kid does baseball cards, if you will. So I
Mm-hmm.
had stacks and stacks of all that stuff. And for me, I had some ample time because I had some injuries. I tore my ACL, played soccer for 20 years. And
Mm.
yeah, like I arrived in France, like a couple months before the wedding in a wheelchair, trying to rehabilitate my shit. So I had plenty of time while my wife was at, work and stuff, just like getting acclimated to living in France, but kind
Mm-hmm.
of stuck at home. So I was listening to a shitload of music and finally getting acclimated to different software and trying to organize my music more. And so there's just so many things that lined up, and then certain things hit when I was going through that process, and like wow, like they moved me so much. And this has been like this for years of just
Mm.
like so many tears of conviction or whatever, just like feeling the artists, and how they convey deep profound emotions and life
Mm-hmm.
experiences and all these things. So yeah, that's always been I've had a deep connection to that. And so I started mind mapping certain songs and stuff, even putting them on playlists or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like when I had, my grand awakening or whatever, I had that inner ear, inner mind open and wide the fuck awake and resonating with all these things. And yeah, magnetism just went
Okay.
incredibly synchronistic, and I just rolled with it. And I felt like, I didn't have proper grammar. I was learning and speaking much more French than I was English at the
Mm-hmm.
time. So for me to, get up on podcasts. That wasn't my thing. I saw other great people do it, and I was like, I can't get that level at this point. So what can I do to convey these messages and, encourage people to reach this level of experience, because it's fucking profound and
Yes.
life and so much better. Yeah.
Exactly. So what was this grand awakening? How did this all flow?
It was a culmination of kind of like a self-initiated quickening, if you will. Like I mentioned before, lighting a fire up my ass.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I quit my job working at some cafe in France, and I told myself at the time I need to reinvent myself. And yeah, that's when I was going through the whole thing of like I need to re-educate myself and all these things. And so day in, day out, every single day for at least like 4 or 5 months until I had a new job. My job full time, even like doing, couldn't even count how many times I did La Nuit Blanche, pulling all nighters of just going through all this stuff. Like I just, unloaded on YouTube and just, went crazy on the search button for anything esoteric, and this had to know about all these secret societies, and like, oh, like I hear all these rappers, sometimes mentioning masonry and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I needed to know about those things and stuff, like there's so many different rabbit holes and all this stuff. And at the same time, I was dealing with some health issues. I had eczema, and so I was deep into alternative medicines and,
Mm-hmm.
and all these things. And there was such a culmination. I wanted to know everything. I wanted to know, way the fuck more than all these ancient alien researchers, because it seemed like, that's just scratching the surface of so much more that's out there and stuff. And so, yeah, I went head on, full on all that stuff. And then,
Was this while you were going through a divorce too with your
oh
wife?
no, it was when I was married.
This was when you were married. Okay.
Yeah, this is 2012.
Okay.
I got divorced in
2012.
2019, if you will.
Okay. Yeah, that was a time they said that there was going to be some sort of mass awakening in 2012 with the Mayan calendar and all that. And something happened for us too. That's when Colin and I first got together and started doing all this Shadow Tech stuff
Oh
was
wow.
and exploring all that. And that's how our book came out, was through these walks, and all this stuff just got downloaded. So that's very interesting that it was 2012 when all of a sudden there was something in your consciousness, and and the fact that you had these issues, the health issues, but that there was something that opened up in your consciousness and said, there's more to this. There's something, more. And so that kind of set you up on that journey. Yeah, because for us, for us, those moments probably for a lot of people was like 9/11, or yeah, that was like a big red pilling moment, so to speak. But 2012, I've found that there were a lot of people that did have some sort of a spiritual kind of awakening. And that was probably the first time that the internet was so full with information that you could just do it on your own, right? You could just spend all day on YouTube or online Googling stuff and downloading music and art and books and just start to get the download, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I want to back up a second because with the whole shadow work and stuff. Because yeah, when I wanted to reinvent myself, I realized that I was not the best partner I could be, the
Mm-hmm.
best husband I could be for my wife, and I realized some cyclical things that are more detailed into shadow work. I wasn't aware of the vocabulary or how to go about those things at the
Mm-hmm.
time, but I was going through that, and I was trying to just live my own life as authentic as I can and not have any kind of generational baggage, or you see uh, certain behavioral patterns from even it doesn't necessarily even have to be from your direct parents. It could just be from society in general, and what the fuck you see on TV, or
Mm-hmm.
and what you hear from other people, of just like kind of mundane, low level interaction between what they call lovers, right? And yeah, it seems like a good amount of people fell in love, and that's great. But how many people rose in love
Mm.
instead of just you see those little differences in language, and that's something I learned from a recent ex girlfriend who like, yeah, I got so much love for these women because I've learned so much, and I'm motivated extremely by just like that beauty and sensuality, and I can say that confidently without uh
I know,
it,
without
what about that?
yeah.
It's more about the raw essence of consciousness and all that,
Mm-hmm.
because I've been able to purge all the fucking bullshit pornographic thoughts and images that can pass in a man's mind when thinking about your average woman, because this is what's been going on and propagated since my generation, if
Mm-hmm.
not longer, a little bit, since the internet and stuff. And like one of the most popular things since it's been around is fucking porn, and it's like, what the hell is going on with that shit, right? It's like
Mm.
ruining minds and relationships and anything that is an extension from the mind, which is all you know
Yeah, it's like that. It's like a shadow part of the internet because it's such a big part of the internet is pornography, and it's the overstimulation of a part of a man that should be like much more balanced, right? And but it's interesting, but like if you look at Jungian psychology, a lot of what you were feeling with your partners and your ex partners was a projection of your own anima, right? Of your own parts. And it's not, this doesn't have anything to do with wokeness or, but we're all made of these different archetypal energies, right? So, we all have the warrior, whether you're a man or a woman. We all have the magician. We all have the lover, and the lover is the feminine, right? And so, what you are feeling and getting these feelings in your heart and these openings through these relationships was basically you're projecting your anima, your perfection of the feminine, which is coming into you. It's part of you. And I think it seems like that you're naturally developed very strong in that heart chakra, which is the feminine, right? And which is archetypally the lover. And so it's very powerful, and that's something that I do see that you're bringing into your life art, with your podcasts and some other, some of the music things that you're doing. But what I want to find out is, okay, so you were going through this exploration, and you've this awakening to all this information, and then how was it that you started to do these videos and start to put these hermetic principles? Like, when did you hook into the Kabbalion and the Hermetica? How did that get into your consciousness? Because that seems to be a strong part of your art.
Cheers. Yeah, especially since around 2017-ish. It's when I really got keyed into, Mark Passio's work, who, speaks the most amount of volume about natural law any human being can encounter at this point in time, I believe. But to rewind it, back in 2012, like I felt, I had a profound frequency shift awakening activation, if you will, where I was, like I was purging out, kind of like that last movie, not In Shadow, but what's the
Oh,
what's this?
Lubomir's? Uh, yeah, the newer one that he had
Yeah,
just
yeah,
put
yeah.
out.
Hmm.
We'll put it in the show notes because
Sure.
I can't think of the new name of his new animation movie, but it is incredible. Yeah, but when the
Yeah.
character who's basically he's a warrior,
Kingdom, I think it's
Kingdom.
called.
That's it. Yes, Lubomir Arsov, who
Yeah. It's
actually
so great you guys had him on. Shit, that was a great
yeah,
episode.
Colin, he's been a friend of ours for a while because he
That's
allowed
cool.
us to use his images
Mm.
in our music production of this project that we were doing,
Ooh.
the O1 Experience. And we had a song called Behind the Mask where we used his mask and we had a friend make the mask. And then I was using the mask later. We did a few performances of that, but after the convid nonsense, that's when we moved to Texas, and I was on Sixth Street doing street performances myself using that mask, following people around, and so yes, Lubomir's art has gotten really, really out into the culture, but the new production that he has, Kingdom, takes it even farther because it's this character who's like the warrior, right? And he's going through this purging of all this false nonsense. And so that's how you felt when you were going through this awakening, correct?
Yeah, it was a huge alchemical like burning out of all, these falsehoods and the wrongdoings that I did in my life. I was given a huge ass cosmic apology, and I'm really trying to connect with Mother Nature, really try to feel into her because I was also really interested in, Earth origins, human origins, and all this stuff since, Atlantean times, if you will, and all these things. So I don't know. Literally felt like I got struck by lightning for like 15 minutes straight. That kind of shit.
Wow. Wow. Was that just
Since that
one?
time, like nothing has ever been the same with me. I had a frequency shift. Like people
Mm,
haven't experienced that. It's hard to understand, but yeah, my whole life trajectory changed. My whole mindset's changed, and my whole alignment to natural law changed. Like instinctively, just like naturally to the Hermetica and all these things, even though I still wasn't aware of the grammar of it or the
mhm.
teachings of Ion or any of that stuff. I was listening to
Wow.
folks like Max Egan who speaks about that, but
Hmm.
not in the same terms as Mark Passio does per se. And I had learned about Passio finally until him and Max did an interview together in like 2015. And I was like, damn, this guy's on fire and speaks my language. These are the things that I wanted to learn because they speak to my awakening. I didn't have the grammar for it yet,
Mm.
So you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it was in your consciousness that natural truth, natural law. I mean, we're all made in the image of God or whatever you want to call God. And if you are able, and actually, I just thought of this, but just came to me is that your access to your heart, to the lover, is what allowed you to have that experience because a lot of what we're doing is we're blocking the natural connection between us and the planet, which is alive, nature, between us and other human beings, right? And this is why have your podcast named Dissolving the Divide, right? Because you're wanting to bring the connection back between humans, this natural heart-based connection. And one of the problems, I think, people is the trauma, is the PTSD and the trauma that we're all having to process and heal in order to open up the heart, like in Lubomir's movie, right? To open up and let all that yuck out, let it out, let it go back into the earth, so that we become back connected with that ancient wisdom, and they all come back to that. They all come back to love, to the heart. And wow, yeah, that's why the language, that's why it's like you were able to tap into it without even knowing the language that was coming through you. So that's very interesting. I think that's important. That's very important that people understand that this awakening, that this heart is available. It's what we are all been given. And that if we're willing to go through that, that purging, that will come out on the other side with this open heart, So, wow. That I just I totally understand exactly what you went through with regards to that. And were you, just out of curiosity, were you doing any like psychedelics or plant medicines or anything? No? Wow. So it was
anything. I might have had a beer or two before that.
Right.
I mean, I was like weeping for like 30 minutes at least, something like that.
Wow.
During this whole process, and like the purging process, that's like real life shit. Mm-hmm. It's kind of painful. Those are like those growing pains. It's, like people want to make this whole thing, be all spiritually cool and like, yeah, I'm an alchemist and this and that. Have you really put yourself to the flames of the Athanor and burnt your false identity to a crisp and felt that and, come out with that phoenix rising as we all should if we properly do that process?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of courage to be able to go there and to allow that purging to happen. I mean, we have a process called emotional processing, which is a way to teach the psyche how to sit in that yuck, how to sit in the negative emotions and allow it to purge. It's through, we learned it, and we were doing it a little bit differently than this guy named John Ruskin, who wrote a book called Emotional Clearing, which I recommend, where he teaches it through a meditative practice where you kind of get into that meditative state. And then you allow all the negative to go through you, and you can have that purging. But how we did it, and we developed it ourselves, was through triggers. So if we, like, for instance, we used our relationship, Colin and I, we still do, as an alchemical vessel, right? As the area where if you have a trigger, you go into the trigger instead of just run away from it. And then you go off by yourself, or you allow yourself to have this purging. And so you're actually releasing and having the experience that you did on your own. But the important thing is having the courage to be able to allow this to happen, right? And you did, for whatever reason, and I really do think it has to do with your heart chakra, that you had a connection already that hadn't been overridden with this trauma. Because a lot of us, including myself, shut off our heart because of trauma, and it could even be epigenetic trauma. And so if you don't have access to your heart, and then with men, it's even harder because they're taught not to cry or not to feel and to shut everything down. And so it's harder for men generally. So the fact that you did have that opening already and that you were able to do that. So that's the thing. It's courage, right? It's courage and the allowance to be able to feel and to be able to look at things as they are instead of some fantasy, right? That we, yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that, but it's very, it's powerful. That's powerful stuff.
Yeah, definitely. And and it's great. People are reading all types of esoteric, material, spiritual stuff, and this and that. But we all have to take these things further and like integrate the knowledge and the teachings. And like what good is knowledge if it's not put into proper wisdom and action, manifesting the goodness of what you read, or at least like sharing with others and all these things that. There's so many different ways where we can portray and express and relay information. Hey,
Right. So how did you, so what made you start doing this, what you call yourself a conscious DJ? When did you start DJing? And then when did you have the idea of hooking in the hermetic information into that?
Ooh, that's a great question. So, yeah, picture your boy, right? 2012 in Paris, working at a cafe in a really cool Masonic building. That's like triple. It's a 3-story thing. It used to be it doesn't matter. One of those checks and regulations for ships sailing into for merchandise and all that stuff. I was doing that, and then all right. So I got a knack for taking notes in a different way. I was taking screenshots and recording little snippets of even like Manly P. Hall and David Icke and William or Bill Cooper, if you will, and folks like that. Carrie Cassidy from the old school Project Camelot or Project Avalon, if you will. All that stuff, and like just and her, having so many different guests that we can learn from, and all these different names, and taking notes and this and that. So I was the audio file that I am, right? I'd be taking my notes in audio files, like literally. So when I would go back and check out these screenshots, I'd be like, "That's a cool little sequence. Oh yeah, that's like a minute or something like that." And then I'd like lace it over an instrumental and just tinker around a little bit. And I made a thing called, my first album was called Intriguing Beats. And it's like an hour long of, a variety of things. And my aim was to have these researchers, whistleblowers and stuff, showcase them in like these certain important segments for people to listen to, and like, oh shit, that's interesting, and like, oh, that's a cool beat or whatever. Like, damn, who's the voice behind that? And so I was trying to relay the truth messages in that art form of music, if you will. So and then I was able to get a DJ gig. Actually, I was doing it for free.
Oh, wow.
It started at like midnight. until like 4 or 5 in the morning. And then, I'd be going back to work at like, 10 o'clock. I'd be pumping out 35 kilometers a day on my bicycle to and fro, and away we go.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't work out as well, but it was a cool experience. I was trying to, my motivation behind that was like, yeah, I'm going to throw in some truth songs for these people to dance to.
Mm-hmm.
And, these kids, they just want to hear what's popular and, shout the lyrics that they,
Right.
learned from TV and all that stuff. So it was a big loss for me and an humbling experience, but I rocked it a couple times. Folks were pretty content. I tried to adapt to a good degree, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, for me, it's just like learning the ropes and just like,
Right.
okay, this is a cool experience, especially like live indirect with people and
Mm-hmm.
interacting with people and this and that. So yeah, having that little bit of experience under my belt motivated me to continue doing more and expand. And so I already had some other things in mind and working on the side. And so yeah, for me, it was about kind of because I love DJs
Mm-hmm.
and specific ones and this and that and certain styles. I noticed that no one's really hitting this method of like yeah, doing a full album like I mentioned, just
Mm-hmm.
truth over beats or something like that, or having a whole mixtape compilation or whatever of songs that pertain to a specific subject
Mm-hmm.
throughout the whole entirety. And we're talking about getting into the esoteric stuff and then lacing some of the Manly P. Halls and other philosophers and whistleblowers and whatever interwoven, intermissionly or through
Mm-hmm.
the little that 30-second instrumental before or after the song, or that that. So yeah, there's a and for me, like music is so magical and it hits certain chords within my core and my
Mm-hmm.
soul that it just I haven't felt that way with other stuff, even though other things or researchers or truth speakers have come close to, but nothing hits the soul as deep as music. And it's not a competition; it's just a
No.
different way.
Yeah, it's the
And,
right and
yeah.
the left brain. Yeah. It's just a
Mm.
different way. The music goes directly into like that whole area. You know, the right brain, the more intuitive side. Again, the more feminine side. It's a not to say that the masculine can't tune into me. Obviously, that's not true, but the essence of music is more receptive, right? You're receiving it, which is a feminine attribute, the natural feminine, right? The big feminine, our ancestors had gods and goddesses that would reflect, these archetypes. And so everyone just accepted that. Now, it's weird because everything gets so shadowy just because we don't have the proper container for it, right? We weren't taught that what the deeper feminine is, or the deeper masculine, or the different archetypes, which would be good to teach kids, from a young age, all the different archetypes and the energies that are running through and all that. But I'm kind of getting off as far as the music goes. But yeah, it's a receptive thing.
Yeah, but just to add on real quick, because that there is aspects to that music. You see MTV, you see
Right.
the NFL halftime show, and it's music based.
Mm-hmm.
And what are they worshiping? The Baal Lilith,
Yeah.
dark, Luciferian
Yep.
cult side of things. So yeah,
Yeah.
they
They always do
overthrew
that.
Albert
Yeah, they don't
archetypes.
the dark side, or the devil, or Colin and I call it the virus or the parasitical force, or Paul Levy calls brought Wetiko, is not that clever, and so when they go in there and the people that are working for that side or are running that program, the Wetiko program, they don't understand that it only goes so far, because that force always ends up destroying itself anyway. First, it gets exposed, and then it just eventually it'll destroy itself. Kind of what's going on now, the whole breaking down of the whole system. But that's natural too. Through these times of great transition, it's the natural way evolution happens, is through these cyclical movements of all this dark energy, just like what we said in Lubomir's movie, in The Kingdom, that dark energy that's being purged. This is a natural evolutionary cycle that's going on. And so, of course, that side, so to speak, thinks it's working for that side, but really it's not. It's working towards the balance, the rebalancing and the evolution of everything, of the universe. And if you want to just go down, the evolution of humanity, right? And we're all involved with that unconsciously. Whether we know it or not, we're definitely involved. And so music, doing what you've been doing, is because you have that connection. It's just kind of like, it's natural, right? It's just coming out of you. So what I was going to say, so you learned how to DJ and how to kind of connect. And then what made you start doing the YouTube videos, and how did that happen? I mean, I know you had the little sections of stuff, but how did you put that all together?
Just curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
I started putting stuff out on YouTube since 2012,
Mm-hmm.
actually. And a lot of my stuff my whole channel on YouTube. It's like Swiss cheese because of copyrights and all this stuff.
Right.
And, yeah. But I was, just trying to think outside of the box and just do something different, have my own uniqueness, not, come out the gates like trying to be some kind of style abiter or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or riding on the coattails of whoever the hell, right? Pay homage to those who've influenced me, but, do my own thing and respect their art as their own and mine as my own.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I noticed is that, at the same time, a lot of DJs, they're not adding videos to their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was like, hey, let's try that out. Let's even do like a documentary type of thing with music behind it, in which I like to call a docu-musical.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you might get the idea of like, oh, what is this, like a musical? People are singing? No, it's like so that's not the best term, but anyways, I rolled with it. And the first one I did because, I had some strong convictions about cannabis because I went to jail a couple times. And so I, had some...
Over there in France?
Say again?
You went to jail in France for cannabis?
California, twice or thrice. Yeah.
Oh, was this when you were a teenager?
In my early 20s. And maybe, as a late teen, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
Like other stuff. You get caught by the cops just I snuck out of my house too much, and it was just for the love of hip hop and just like chilling with my friend, smoking hella weed,
Mm-hmm.
but listening to a lot of like dope ass hip hop that I wasn't really familiar with and getting acclimated to, and it was like
Mm-hmm.
it was just like a weekly routine, and it was really cool. And yeah, sometimes cops, especially in these quiet suburban streets, were like, "Hey, kid, what are you doing?" Like,
Mm.
nothing. Mind your fucking business, dude. I get.
Well, now it's legal and it doesn't really matter, but yeah, but going to jail, that's traumatic in itself.
Sure, yeah.
I mean, I was only arrested one time for doing something stupid, putting the wrong stickers on my car. I had no idea. I was dumb, and like this was in my early 20s. I had no idea that how illegal that was. I just thought, yeah, I just put the wrong registration sticker on my car, and then I was DJing at that time. I did
Wow.
mobile DJing where I would go to parties. My
Oh, cool.
ex-boyfriend was taught me how to do it, and so I was at a party. Somebody pulled my car in, and this was in Tiburon. You know Tiburon, all ritzy
Yeah.
Tiburon, right? And the Tiburon police pulled my car out, or they saw, and the registration sticker didn't match. And they came out and said, "Who was this?" I said, "It was me." "And did you do this?" And then they just handcuffed me behind my back and did the whole, yeah, it stuck me in a holding cell. But luckily, my ex-boyfriend's parents lived next door to the chief of police in Mill Valley. So they got me out like immediately. But needless to say, it was traumatizing. Once I had that experience, I said, I will never do anything that, I will not get arrested again. Because before that time, I thought, oh, if I feel like something's strong enough to fight for, I'll go and I'll get arrested or whatever. But once I was arrested and I had that experience, I said, no, I'm never going to have that happen again. I don't know if that happened to you when you were in jail, but it sucked.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely tried to make a point to myself to not do stupid stuff or make better decisions and
Yeah.
everything. Be wise. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Especially when you're that age and that happens. Yeah.
And I swear
So,
that are they doing that on purpose, by the way, to create that trauma so that they understand that in the future we're going to be a lot more obedient to whatever, or think, even more than thrice before doing something like rebellious, if you
well,
will.
no, I think it's just you have to be smart about it. You just, people that you see that are, I did go to some big protests, the Iraq War ones and stuff like that, in San Francisco at the time. And I saw that all these people were doing, it wasn't doing anything to stop the war. All it did was these people were there just displacing all their shadow stuff, basically, not really having an effect. And you can see that with the whole woke-isms and everything that's going on now. So you had like yesterday I saw this thing. It's so funny. It's the pride marches, and then there were Palestine protesters, for Palestine, got involved into the Pride March, and they were fighting, right? So,
Oh shit.
yes. So they were fighting and displacing all this energy, right? And then somebody made a comment, but I'm sure it could be the case. Then you would have a climate protester coming in and then fighting with them, and it's like it never ends, and it doesn't. And the powers that be, they like the fighting, right?
Sure.
They don't want people to be intelligent and to have this internal strength, right? So the internal strength comes from this awakening, right? That's where the internal strength comes from. And when you have that connection, you don't really have to worry so much anymore, because your intuition through that awakening becomes much stronger. You can start to depend on your intuition. And then if you do get into a situation, you can utilize that as more of your growth, right? So, I mean, this is what I've been doing, since I've been doing all this work, is that everything negative that happens is there to show me either where I need to do more work, to grow more, or to show me something of a direction of where I don't want to go, and to kind of move into a different direction, or it's a cycle within a cycle. Because that's the other thing, is that we all, in just like the universe and in the Hermetic system, everything's cyclical. Everything goes through cycles. So you're going to have these down cycles, and you're going to have up cycles. And it's harder for humans, and especially Western humans, to kind of accept these darker cycles, or the harder times, right? And how to navigate through them. And it seems like through these awakenings, it helps us get stronger so that we're able to navigate better. I kind of got
Yeah, that
off
was the word I was
again.
thinking when you were talking. Yeah, that navigation.
Yeah. Yeah. So I saw the first videos that I saw that you did were of these Hermetic principles of like as above, so below, and the different principles that are laid out so well in the Kabbalion. And I know Mark Passio talked about them too. And some people have learned them, in different environments and different teachers. But what stimulated that, and how did you learn? How were you able to take those principles and put it so directly into the art that when you see those videos, you really get it? Like, you really understand the principle, like from that right brain area.
Great question. Yeah. And yeah, what I wanted to mention before, and this ties in as well, is, when I do these mixes, I really try to, set some proper space and time, especially. And sometimes there has to be some repetition of, listening to certain songs, and the lyrics and the melody, and going over all types of images, and just like deep contemplation throughout the whole thing of, like, what corresponds to this. And the fact that I do have a lot of inspiration from like abstract hip hop, that definitely helps, just that, thinking way outside of the box and using your proper eye imagination, or, yeah, and navigating through your eye imagination, right?
Yeah.
It's vast, and you can keep expanding, right? And there's so many different tools now to work with. So yeah, for me, it's like really feeling into all that, to the point of tears a lot of times, like straight up. I've wept over like the majority of these musical projects that I make. Like straight up, it can be very therapeutic for me as well, as I do recognize that it is and has been very therapeutic for so many countless artists that I've showcased and just have been around for centuries at this point, right? So yeah, I have a deep love for that artistry and trying to hold that large, I guess, and cultivate my own at the same time and see how it goes and work with what's out there and dabbling into so many different ways of researching. Like we research the truth, right? But how many people are able to research visuals and audio that
Mm-hmm.
corresponds to that and make a cool little tapestry of that.
Right.
And so when I got some better you know video editing programs and stuff, that opened up so many doors, and it like something just a couple buttons hit within me, and I was like, oh wow, like some things just unlocked as far
Mm.
as like creativity wise, and like I'm just like, wow, I can do all this shit now. Fuck
Mm.
yeah, let's
Mm-hmm.
go. And so
Yeah.
just real quick, I've done the Hermetica, like visuals of Hermetic Principles was titled. I did one that spans for almost like an hour, and it's kind of like those little shorts that I
Mm-hmm.
released within the past month. I also did a shorter version of that, going through the whole 7 plus the 8th, I believe, with the whole generative principle of care, and that's like 15 minutes of just hip hop snippets. And then this last one of the shorts, I wanted to showcase cool truth speakers or just philosophers,
Mm-hmm.
whoever that speak about these things. Mario West, Seth Exposa, and Brandon Spencer, good friend of mine as well, and Mark Passio, of course, and some others that they're really cool. Just like one little minute snippet, and
Mm-hmm.
those are people you can learn more from. It doesn't stop there, all you TikTokers, So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. And one thing that you mentioned, I think, is very important for all artists to know is that the deeper you're willing to go into your art creation from an emotional place, that gets you to the point of where you're crying in your own creativity, you're crying in the process of doing that, your results of your art, doesn't matter what kind of art it is going to be much more powerful because that's where the gold is through this deeper nature, the connections. I know that this is the case of my own art when I'm creating. And if I get to the point where I have that feeling, it's like a deep feeling. It could be a bliss feeling, or it could be, crying feeling, but the feeling is so powerful. If you are willing to, and in order to tap that that emotion or those deep feelings, whether it's bliss or pain, your art will be able to communicate to more people because it touches them in a way that some pop music or just some of this stuff that's created now is just so one-dimensional. It has no depth at all, right? So that is really, that's why I was able, I'm sure, to tune into your art and say, wow, that is powerful, because you were able to go into it with that kind of depth. So that's very powerful. I was also going to
Thank you so much.
talk about or ask you about, so when you're adding other people's music, you're contacting them? Are you like collaborating with them, or how does that work?
No, I mean, I've just kind of taken the notion of a lot of other DJs in the past of, they're just, fans of other people's music.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's kind of like that, free promo
Right.
pro
Oh,
bono.
definitely. Yeah.
And it's for them that I have the intention that they'll benefit from and gain more fans, sell more records, whatever. And for the people listening on my end to learn something deeper than what even these artists are, talking about to a degree or whatever, even if it's just like a little bit, and like, oh, that's that one name. I got to look this guy up, and then
Mm.
whatever, like planting seeds, if you will, right? So
Yeah, so this new project that you're working on, is that a way to hook people into some of these artists that you're making the videos from? Or is it more of a collaborative effort?
for me, it's just I've been a one man show for the whole duration for the most part,
Mm-hmm.
except for when I do my podcast. Like the music thing is on my end. That's kind of been, yeah, my one man show. I have collaborated once with someone directly.
Mm-hmm.
Has it been twice? But regardless, a really cool artist out from India,
Mm.
BMac Mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
He reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, man, I love some of those visuals that you make and stuff." It was pretty much after I dropped that, visuals of Hermetic Principles and stuff, and he wanted me to uh, do a run through of his whole album and visualize every single song and this and that. And I was like,
Wow. Mm-hmm.
I like that because like for me, that gives me the opportunity to try something new and yeah, work the craft and adapt and kind of, yeah, just be more creative in a different sense. And all right, so we're gonna go down the list of every single song, and you kind of have. So the album was called like Genesis and that
Mm-hmm.
kind of stuff. And I wanted to have like an overarching theme in a sense, run down, kind of trinkle through the whole album, but have every track stand out as their own, pertaining to to a good degree of what the subject matter was on that
Mm-hmm.
song. So, just like little things like that. It's like, like test the limits,
Mm-hmm.
let's be more expansive and what's uh, resourceful with what we can work with.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't always have to be AI today
Mm-mm.
on, the June 3rd, 2024, even though it's like the uber popular thing to do. Like just go, sit back, relax, couple keystrokes and let it generate. And hey, you got something. Like, is that
Yeah.
really art sometimes? Like some of the aesthetics are pretty cool. I won't lie. Some of this stuff
Oh, I
that
know.
I've showcased, it has some of that, but I don't want that to be anything close to the crux of anything that I'm working with or doing. Right?
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. But there was one other thing I wanted to talk. One other thing that I wanted to talk about with
Please.
you that impressed me a lot is your food art. So you're a vegan, right? But that's not the important thing. The important thing is the beauty of your food. I mean, I saw some pictures on social media posting some things that you were making, some meals, and the beauty of how you put together the food made me, I could feel, or I could almost taste it, and I could tell that there is a lot of art there. So how did you get into the whole food art?
Damn. Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much. I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that. That's really heartfelt, Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take it back to like growing up, and one of the things that I was able to bond with my parents when they were around and stuff after work. I was helping them out in the kitchen quite a bit, or
Mm-hmm.
not always helping, but sometimes trying to be present there and maybe do my homework on the table and they're cooking and stuff, and smelling the aromas and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and being at earshot of like, hey, if you ever need anything, I'm here, kind of stuff. Sometimes my dad would be like, oh, can you just ride your bike to the grocery store and pick up a loaf of French bread, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool. I had quite a cool experience with that. And my sister is a really good cook as well, and she went vegetarian when she was super young, and she even did the Master Lemon Cleanse
Mm.
and the whole fasting thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was fasting quite a bit too. And honestly, what that does, if you took a week off of eating food, when you get back to that, you appreciate that even more.
Oh yeah.
And guess what? When you're in love and have that heart chakra opened up,
Mm.
you want to cook beautiful, wonderful, glorious food for the one you love.
Mm.
That's just how I rolled. And it's not to brag at all. It's just, what happened. And, it might not be the most masculine thing. Big fucking deal. I cooked for my wife
Oh,
over
but
the
look
duration.
at the chefs, most,
Yeah.
the master chefs in the world, a lot of them are men. But so did you just become vegetarian and then vegan, and it was just kind of like a natural progression that happened?
Yeah, I had a good amount of inspiration from my sister back in like early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
I became a flexitarian since then, pretty much, and then kind of even back then, before I was really awakened or whatever, I was quite aware of the bullshit system. Listening to conscious hip hop, it keys you into all this stuff. I was
Mm-hmm.
already kind of like on that counterculture shit due to the even like the alternative rock and all that stuff, Rage
Mm-hmm.
Against the Machine,
Right.
folks like that. And so I was like, fuck the system and all this stuff, fuck commercial rap. I was already over commercial music before I got out of high school. Pretty
Mm-hmm.
much, I abandoned most of that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
even a lot of rap stuff. So when people like try to relate, it's like I don't know that person. I haven't listened to that music. They look at me shocked, like, dude, what the? You're a
Mm-hmm.
DJ? What?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that DJ? Cat? Like, don't worry about it.
Right. Right.
So, anyways, like the whole food thing, have an appreciation, and I've worked in restaurants for over 15 years, also.
Yeah,
So
that would help too.
California to Washington D.C. and Paris, south of France, even
Mm-hmm.
Great Brittany, where I actually worked for a solid season in the kitchen exclusively, and that was cool. Half the day in the kitchen, and then I would jump behind the bar for the night shift. It was
Oh,
cool.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, you learn a lot. I mean, I've worked in restaurants and cafes. You learn so much about humanity. You learn, and then as far as the food goes, you really learn about how to plate food, you know, how to smell food. It's just, yeah, it's amazing. It's a great experience, the whole foodie experience, and then the whole service side of the food experience. But I do hope I'd like to see your food art get out there more too, because it's very beautiful and it looks like incredibly good. Like,
Oh,
and what I noticed, over in Europe is that there's a lot more veganism over there, it seems like, almost, than over here now. Maybe.
really?
Well, when we went to the Netherlands last year, there was a lot more vegans. I know we're going to the Czech Republic for a festival. It's a metal festival next month, and they're all vegan. They're even having this vegan competition of vegan bodybuilders and jujitsu and martial artists. They're doing like a whole, like, they're very much into being vegan. Oh yeah, and one of the in Germany too, all over. It was I don't know. It seemed like it was more of a movement over there than even over here. Maybe it's
Damn,
just,
it's not like that in France.
oh really? Oh, well,
Not at
France,
all.
yeah, I guess France, you have all these sauces and,
It's very traditionnel, if you
yeah,
will.
traditional, yeah. Though the quality of the food in France is amazing, and
Yeah.
do you live near farmers markets?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
They love me too. I go
Uh,
there on a weekly basis for the most part, and
yeah.
it's really reasonable. And they hook me up even on sometimes. And like, yeah, just I love building a cool rapport with some of these people over the years, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good folks out there.
Yeah,
You know.
that's great. Well, we're getting to that time.
Oh yeah, shit.
Um,
Real
so
quick, I just want
yes.
to answer your question. We got like 5 minutes, pretty much. Is
Yeah,
that what's
yeah.
So to answer your question in a nutshell, because what drove me to be vegan, it was
Mm-hmm.
really what really hit the nail on the head was understanding natural law on a deeper basis, and how Mark Passio puts it as far as like property rights. Objective morality as far as the universe is concerned, in life and creation and all these things. Every life form has their own property, their own life. Do we have the right to take their life, just as any other human being has the right to take our life, or infringe and violate our rights as sovereign beings and this and that? And people can make any kind of arguments, but for me to dead the whole issue is that we're in a fallen time matrix. We're
Mm-hmm.
running off a two-strand DNA. There's people that have a whole plethora of difference of biological makeup and blood types and yada yada. So that's not my biggest concern,
Mm-hmm.
although it can help and kind of clear up the frequencies and energetic morphogenic field of energy, if you will. And the less death in the air, the better, in a sense. So I'm just living my life. I respect everyone else's free will, but I'm just trying to stay aligned to the divine. And if people want to say like, "Oh, you're trying to take the moral high road, aren't you, buddy?" Like, it's like, if that's the case, I'm not trying to do that to look down on anyone.
Yeah, well, I know that.
I
And
cook meat for people that I love,
yeah,
and I'll sit down at the table with people that eat whatever.
yeah. Well, see, that's what I've experienced over the years. I've done all sorts of different diets and healing modalities and all this stuff. And uh, within the last 10, 11 years with Colin, he's much more into the whole psychic, somatic reasons for a lot of our diseases and pain, and through the like John Sarno method. But I don't want to get into all that. But what I found is that everyone's body is different, and what something goes through one body may not agree with another body. And there may be different times in one's life where they need to eat a certain way or another way, or they need to fast or cleanse, or so to get into these camps, is another way that gets us, fighting. It keeps the attention away from our real slavery, which is, being from above, right? The elite, or whatever you want to call it, or these systems that have been in place. So
Archons.
yeah, whatever you want to, it doesn't really matter what you want to call it. And
For sure, yeah.
of course, what I said before is this is also nature's way of cleaning. And so what we see as something very dark and dismal is actually is a way that evolution works in order to evolve itself. If you can withstand and you can evolve through these experiences, through these darker times, the darker cycles, and you learn, or you could look at it with your own body. If you're addicted to a certain substance, or to, say, white refined sugar or whatever, and you're addicted to that, then getting off of it is going to be incredibly, it's hard, you know, to get off like refined sugar. If you're addicted to it, it takes like a month for the system to clear itself. But that's just like a little microcosm as to this whole process that's going on in every, what Colin and I call in every holon, right? But so the whole point is that we need to just accept each other, accept that we're all made in the same image of the universe or God force, but we're also we're all have different stories. You know, the reason I'm doing this podcast, we all have different life paths, and they're all very important. So it's not this separation that's going to be helpful to us. And, you know, it's a coming together and an acceptance. And I would say it's more important as far as whether or not you eat meat or not is the quality of your food. You know, like over there in France, you have these beautiful farmers market, and the quality of your food is so much better. So your quality, you know, you want to stay away from all the chemicals, and you want to support. Over here, they're trying to take, you know, small farms away. And they're trying to keep you from drinking raw milk, you know, and they're trying to, or the government's giving loans to Chinese nationals to buy up all the farmland. So those are much more important. And see, they would rather have us fighting over whether you're vegan or not than that they're actually trying to shut down small farms, you know, and stuff like that. So anyway, so I think it's great that you're a food artist, and I definitely encourage you to continue showing your beautiful food even online, because I do think that educates people, because a lot of people don't even know how to cook anymore, you know. And it's such a beautiful gift that you give to your loved ones, to your family, to your friends, to be able to cook. So keep that up. And we're going to put all your links in the show notes.
Got one link to rule them all. So,
yes,
yeah, you
yes.
know what's up, yeah.
Yes. So we're going to have all that in there. As far as what I've been doing, a lot of people who are watching this know this thing I've been going through, and I don't even like to identify with the label of it, but a quote unquote disease, but I don't even see it as that. And I've already been through the worst part of it. But I'm still accepting donations because I'm not quite able to work yet. And so I'll have those links underneath. I appreciate everyone that has donated to me. It has helped me so much. It's helped us so that we could buy food. Colin works for himself, so you know, without me working, it's been very challenging. So thank you everyone for that. And Derek, so anything, final words of wisdom that you want to talk about?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, just the whole heart chakra awakening and stuff, and like it really starts with that love for self, that care for self, and all these things, and that opens the door to a plethora of things, and then you really get that spiritual pep in your step. And I've said this in a couple of videos, but to go further with that is just really like, how are you interacting with all the elements on a daily basis? How are you, you know, aware of anything or everything in the moment in any given time? Because, you know, natural law and all these laws of the universe are operating 24/7 all the time, omnipresence. type of thing. So get with that essence, and if you speak from the heart, you let your soul be free. I'm sure you heard that in a couple of songs. And yeah, so it's just having that extra care and attentiveness to certain things, whether it be through your food and your diet and all this stuff. You have to make your food all artsy fartsy. I really appreciate you mentioning that, because I could take my stuff even further, but sometimes you just want to eat, and if you're doing it for yourself these days, it's like but but just being creative and being experimental, tapping into your body, how it functions, weaning yourself off of certain substances and putting it back on, and seeing how your body reacts after a while. Like being in abstinence of certain things really, makes you reflect. Even your internal reflection is more profound than we can comprehend up here sometimes, and there is that correspondence of, in relationship to the gut brain connection, and all these things that we need to take into consideration. And yeah, like having a cool rhythm in your mind, like I might have all the time due to my channel Awakenyamind, which it all goes back to mentalism. And I didn't even realize this, when I created that moniker of how it corresponds with the Hermetica and this and that, and how I'm able to relay certain things and lessons through hip hop that have been around for a while, that correspond to these Semitic teachings and eternal principles and axioms of truth that are so profound. And if we all just align to that, from that heart-based intelligence, we can really shift things for the better in so many ways that are unfathomable for the amount of people that are out there. And so, yeah, in the hip hop slang of things, it's just one time for the mind, maybe two times for the rhyme. And if you want to hit that three times and rewind and sit back and recline, and you might be feeling fine and aligned to the divine. I don't know what else to say. Thank you for your time.
That's great. Yeah, keep it up, Derek. And thank you so much for joining me and living your gold. Thank you so much. And
Likewise.
we will see you soon. Okay.